Hi everyone, welcome back to Destination Truth. This is your boy Tyler Warden. Today I am simply re-uploading this video with some minor edits so that I am not going to get another copyright strike. This was taken down nearly 7 months ago because I used a little bit of footage from what I thought was an unmonetized channel, and I didn't think the content creator would care because basically all he does is go downtown and films crazy people here in SF. But, you know, it's hard work and I respect that, and so I'm not using his footage anymore. And yeah, the video is still great. The original had almost 350,000 views, which is crazy because I think that's my best video. And this one was honestly some of the easiest content I've ever produced. It's simply my life story growing up in the Bay Area, namely San Francisco, and how this city has radically changed over the course of my short lifetime. And I'm not even 30 yet, so it's a great video. I think some people can learn some things, but mostly you get a real close-up picture of just what it looks like to live on the streets in San Francisco and how bad it is compared to the rest of the country. And it really is bad, guys. So without any further ado, enjoy. So Paul Joseph Watson has called San Francisco a shithole, and I've been living in the Bay Area my entire life, and I currently live here in San Francisco. And the footage I'm rolling right here is the footage of downtown from my point of view where I live every day. So the sad news is Paul is right. And I just want to share some insights as to the sad, progressive, slow turn of events it has been that has led to this. Starting with what it was like when I was about 14 years old, because although the term didn't exist when I was 14 years old, I was basically a weeaboo. And that's because, well, I was raised by my parents in the East Bay in a rather secluded area because I lived about 3 miles from my closest friend, and like 7 miles from the friend after that, and 14 miles from the friend after that. I was far away from my friends, and I didn't have a lot that were in bicycling or walking distance. Though I did have 2 that were technically in biking distance. And so, you know, part of my childhood, I was somewhat lonely, and you know, I wouldn't say I had the greatest childhood, but I had a very interesting childhood, which I wouldn't trade for the world, honestly. I really wouldn't. I had a great time, and I got into all kinds of interesting hobbies, and I learned things that my peers had no idea about, and to this day, I'm pretty sure I've got some friends out there that must have thought I was a psychopath, because, you know, in my free time, I had all of the space and materials needed to make all kinds of interesting things. I'm not going to go into that, but for a kid, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Anyway, I loved anime and Japanese culture so much that I would actually ride my bike nearly 8 miles to BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, and go all the way into the city with my bike, and then from where I landed in the city, I would bike another like 4 miles to Japantown, and I'd spend like half the day there going through Japantown, reading books, animes, mangas, buying movies. Yeah, I just loved it. I can honestly say I have been a weirdo pretty much my entire life in that regard, in the sense that, like, although I know there's tons of people that might think that's cool, I think the majority of people at that age would not have been allowed to do that, and had I actually asked permission to do it, I might not have been allowed to either. But at the same time, my parents were fine with me doing things like if we go to a snow resort for skiing and snowboarding, they'd be fine with me just taking off on my own all day, and then just, you know, rendezvousing for lunch, and then when we go. So, and this is pre-cell phone time, okay? This is pre-cell phone time. So if I got in trouble in the city, that was it. Like, you know, I had no way of calling for help other than, you know, word of mouth, yelling, screaming, as a 14-year-old boy. So Back in those times, San Francisco was not only beautiful, it was clean, and Bart felt safe. And wherever I left my bike in Japantown, it never once got stolen. I didn't have any bad experiences. Now let's fast forward to young adulthood when I moved out here for school originally. In the first year and a half, 18 months, my car got broken into twice, and my car got towed 3 times, and my bike got stolen once. That was a very rude awakening, and that was a difference of about 6 to 7 years. And in those years, they'd had Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom were between those years to some extent. I think Jerry Brown continued to be ruling. But anyways, we had some of these ridiculously stupid liberal mayors, and made the city a sanctuary city. We had a bunch of migrants, and it's really just sad and sickening that we're spending just thousands and thousands of dollars on helping homeless people stay in the city, and it's like a safe haven paradise for homeless. In fact, homeless people in this city, this goes back like 20 years. When I was a young kid, people would tell me stories where, in the city, there's no hope for the homeless situation because tourists see these homeless people and they do pay them, as well as some locals, but mostly tourists. And the problem is they actually make so much money from sympathy from tourists, because tourists aren't used to being in a city with so many homeless everywhere, even in the tourist areas, that they feel bad and they pay them. And so some of these homeless people are actually getting paid roughly like $20,000 a year. Obviously, that's no way to live in the Bay Area on that amount of money. You hardly can survive. But that's actually way more than enough money to have a decent tent and have all the drugs and food you want, basically, for a year. So, don't quote me, but yeah, I've heard these numbers many times for decades, literally for like 20 years. I've been hearing stories where, whether a homeless man will stay in one particular location for a long period of time or not, doesn't really matter. What happens sometimes are people feel compassion. They're like, hey, if you just want a job so you can support yourself, you could be a busboy, or you could wash dishes in the back. And homeless people in this city do in fact say, like, F that, man. Why do I have to work? Why would I work? They already collect welfare. They're getting SSI or EBD, which is food stamps. And then on top of that, they're begging and making money. These people are well taken care of people. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. They may be begging, but they have money for food already. And if they don't, all they have to do is walk to one of these many, basically, social services offices, of which there are many, and they can get it quite easily. It's amazingly almost too streamlined in this city, how well that works. So the homeless people have been a huge problem in the city from, square one for a long time. Problem is, it's become more and more friendly towards the homeless. And it's also become a sanctuary city, meaning there's more and more Latinos. There's a ton of Latinos in certain neighborhoods. I mean, like, ridiculous amounts. There are certain areas that, just based on the signs and stuff, you might actually feel like you're not in America, let alone San Francisco. And that goes for not just Spanish speakers, but also Chinese. And this is the heart of American multiculturalism. So that's not a big deal. That's not a problem here. What is a problem is basically the homelessness. Honestly, if there's going to be one thing that I can blame for being the main cause for San Francisco being a failed city at this point, I would say it's the homeless issue. We're way too kind to our homeless here. We literally have cities from around America still secretly busing in homeless people. This is something San Franciscans have heard for a long time, that cities from around America with their own small homeless problems, if they think that they can literally round these people up and say, hey, we're going to take you to paradise, San Francisco, they'll hop on willingly and go because they know San Francisco is so open to this, as well as willing to give basically free money, let alone we have an amazing climate. Even when it's really cold, days upon days in a row, it's like, cold for us is like 50. 45 is like the coldest it gets out here. Like seriously, like 45 is like cold nighttime. The thing is, I will say there is a wind chill factor out here that a lot of places don't really get. So if it was 45 or 50 and there was significant wind on a certain day, it can definitely feel like it's below freezing sometimes. But still, I mean, the homeless don't have an issue. All you have to do is wear the right clothes. All the homeless around here have tents and sleeping bags, and even if they don't have a tent, the sleeping bags alone are more than well warm enough to keep people from dying. You will rarely ever hear of a homeless person dying of hypothermia or the elements or anything. So besides that, the city is strong. They are fighting prostitution and hard drugs, it seems. But I will say, the city, you can't. I have this conversation with people all the time nowadays, where I say, the city is like, it's not what it used to be. It's broken in many ways, and for that reason, I probably will one day, in the not too distant future, probably in like 2 to 4 years, I will be moving away, and that's because one, this is the last place in America, I think. Maybe the third to last place in America that I'd want to raise kids. New York being number 1 and Vegas being number 2, SF being 3. They are just bad places for that. And LA would be number 4 probably, but I think those are the only 4 cities in all of America that I know are just terrible places to raise kids, but I'm sure there's others. But yeah, so I mean, I love this state. It is my homeland. I don't want to leave, but these videos I make don't seem to make any difference, and I have friends that have basically defriended me over like one comment I made on Facebook. One, just questioning their logic. And they're so insane that they won't use logic to fight you. They'll literally use groupthink, where they'll just dogpile you and be like, so you think you're smarter than the mainstream media? You think you're smarter than the experts? It's like, well, yeah, I did a lot of research into this one particular subject, and I know you're just blowing smoke. And to say that, this is an example, guys, but I mean, the area is so liberal is what I'm getting at here. The area is so liberal and insane that it's really no place to raise a family. That's someone like me is a free thinker. I look at facts, and I want to have a good chat and debate about it and come to a good conclusion. And the left is anti-facts, anti-science, and they will, someday philosophers will say what Stefan Molyneux has said, which is they have sinned against reality. They have basically just defied math and pretended that they could just go on basically printing money and just going on their merry way, pretending everything's fine when our country is beyond bankrupt. I mean, it is beyond bankrupt. So this city's only going to get worse, is my point in mentioning that it's bankrupt. So that's the second reason why I'm going to have to get out of this city. Not good for families, beyond bankrupt in SF as well. Not to mention the London breed, which I met actually at a banquet. Don't ask me why I was there. It has to do with work, not because I was supporting her. But her campaign was basically building low-income housing and providing safe sites for not lethal injection. I wish it was lethal injection some of the time, but safe injection sites for homeless. That's right. Build buildings that cost millions. Anything in this city costs millions of dollars. Anything. Okay. So building anything. Low-income housing is going to be built at a loss. Basically, it's on the government's dime, so we all pay for it, obviously. But yeah, so they want to do what has happened to, New York, which is basically just set price ceiling so that if you own it, you're good, but if you're a renter, like, you know, whoever owns the building is just SOL, basically. Shit out of luck. And they can't charge you any more than they can. And, you know, the crazy thing about the city is that as much of a shithole downtown and the Embarcadero and all the beautiful parts are, there's still just miles of streets of beautiful mansion type houses that look so beautiful, and that's part of the reason it's a dream. When you come to the city and travel the neighborhoods of the wealthy neighborhoods, that's what will get you to want to come live here. Trust me. If you're not a developer and you just want to work here to be wealthy for the sake of working, the thing that will pull you here are the houses. And the houses out here, I mean, they are amazing. There's amazing, amazing houses out here. Look super aesthetic, and I could just keep going on about how some of the houses out here look amazing, but those are the people that are okay with this socialist freaking insane world they live in, because they don't go downtown. They live in a beautiful house in like a mansion. They never see the homeless people because they live way up on a hill. And homeless people are lazy. They don't want to go up the hills. They stay down where all the tourists and the people that have to walk to work and use public transit, that's where they want to be, because they want to get free money. And they want to be near their social service buildings, basically, and their low-income housing or their emergency services, whatever it is. But yeah, so my point being is people like Mark Zuckerberg who live here in the city, they don't see these homeless people, like, ever. If they drive to work, they don't have to take a route where they see very many homeless people, honestly. The whole Sunset and 19th Avenue, that whole area, like, there's not a ton of homeless people out there. They're all on the east side of San Francisco, like the Embarcadero, downtown, Tenderloin, all that, Soma. Yeah, so there's this total communist style, socialist, very socialist style of like ruling class and the poor people, and they don't even have to see each other. So the problem is these ruling class people set the laws, and it's the middle class that suffers, because the middle class still has to live around all of these poor homeless people. So it's driving people, entrepreneurial people like myself, out of the city, even though I love the city, but I'm definitely getting forced out. So there's really nothing I can do about it, and it's just a matter of time before I get out of here. I just need to basically establish myself more in my profession, and just a matter of time, I guess. I guess I'll summarize my experience in SF now with some stories real quick. One story, when I first had moved into the city and was living here for only a year. Or no, actually this is right before I moved into the city. Me and my buddy came out here to go to a concert, and we needed to actually get costumes beforehand. So we went out to the Hate, and Hate Street's awesome. Has a homeless problem, but they're different kind of homeless people. They're the kind of homeless people that have so much going on because they're just runaways from wealthy parents that they actually have lots of money, and they'll still beg and be like, hey, give me money. And they're the most aggressive and blatant homeless people you'll ever run into, because they'll walk out in front of a car and be like, give me money, give it to me. Like, they will literally do that. And anyway, even though I say that, these are the homeless people with like pet dogs and guitars, and they get into like drum circles and they're like living the dream. They're not your average homeless people. The majority of homeless people are literally insane in the city. And Paul Joseph Watson's video will show you some of those people. But in the story, we went to the McDonald's on the end of Haight Street near Golden Gate Park. And wow, that is the craziest McDonald's on the planet. I can guarantee it, almost hands down. We were in there, and this guy, standing not in line to order, but in line to pick up food, he had like a stick, like a staff, like a full-blown staff under his shirt, behind his back, and hiding behind his leg. And he was like moving it around, like, it was behind there. And he was clearly insane. He was talking to himself. And me and my buddy had ordered food, and we're waiting for it. And we're just like back there, just like, what's about to happen? My buddy recorded it on his phone. This is years ago, so we don't know what happened to the footage. I think he put it up on YouTube a long time ago, but I highly doubt he even knows where it is. It was so long ago. It was like close to a decade ago already. Anyway, that guy, when he got his food, no, he got a coffee, and the coffee was like cold or something, and he literally took the lid off and he threw it at the manager. He threw it at him, and the manager like freaked out and was yelling at him. And then the guy took out the staff and he slammed it on the counter, and the manager grabbed the staff, and they had like a tug of war over the staff. And another employee was like, "We're calling security." And yeah, my buddy and I just like walked, and we're just like, this is an insane city. This is like not a safe place anymore. Like, I would never trust kids to be in that city safe. Oh, here's another story. Okay, so that's basically that story. Another story. When I was even younger than that, when I was about 16, I brought two of my friends. So there's three of us. Two of my friends. We went to Japantown together. And on the way back from Japantown, it was like 7 p.m. We're heading to BART. And the sun had just gone down before we'd gotten on BART, and we noticed this guy's been following us. Someone was following us, and followed us for many blocks. And eventually, we were still ahead of him, but he ran through a red light to go jaywalk across the crosswalk to catch up to us, and we knew he was doing it because we had mentioned a few times like this guy's like been following us for like way too long, like he's definitely like actually following us. And so eventually we turn into a store to try to lose him and maybe buy some like candy or something. I forget what it was, but I forget whether it was intentional just to lose him especially, or if it was for like a good reason. But anyways, when we come back out, he's there waiting for us, and he says something stupid to try to start up a conversation with us, and we're like, nah man, we're good. And then we just start walking, and he's like, hey, but what about shrooms? You like mushrooms? And I was like, nah, I'm good. And my buddies were like, depends what kind. And he's like, the psychedelic kind. And we just laughed and took off because none of us were interested in that. I mean, I was still straight edge at the time, so my buddies knew that I didn't want any part of that anyway. Another story. I got stories for days, guys. I really do. Yeah, I had to think about the last story for a second, but there's the last like 1.5 stories I'll share, which is just the insane nature of how scared white people are in the city to do anything about anything wrong, basically. So on public transit, where at my last job I used to take it at least 2-3 times a week, which is, over 50% of the time usually. There's these people, black people namely, and they just are so angry all the time over nothing, mostly propaganda, just baiting them into a race war, that they'll just randomly find white people and just say like, you looking at me? You looking at me? And they're just trying to start a fight. They're literally, that's all they're trying to do, and we know that's what they're trying to do because the law is on their side, society at large is on their side, and unless they start the fight, they will always be seen as the victim. So literally there's nothing you can do. And so like it's happened to me several times where I just won't even acknowledge them. I'll just like, they'll be like literally right here, like that far away. And I'll just be like reading a book or reading something on my phone or playing something on my phone, and they'll be like yelling at me, and just because I glance at them, like if they're walking down the hallway on a BART train, I'll just like glance at them and they'll just start yelling at me. I'm just like, and it's super awkward. I cannot tell you how awkward it is, but it's like literally these people are desperate for someone to lay a hand on them, because all they want is society to pay them for somebody's wrongdoing, and they're just desperate for it, and it's so obvious. And it's sad. It's really sad because they just threaten white people. They get so
They've done it so many times. Most of these people have done it more than once, trust me, and they get so confident because they've tried it so many times that they'll freaking spit on you. That's never happened to me, but I've seen it. And they'll be standing up, leaning over people, towering over them, just threatening them. It's terrifying. I mean, in a safe society, rule of law should be unbiased. So in my opinion, if that happens, if someone's like in your face, like, you should have every right just to deck them in the face and be like, don't touch me, don't even come near me. Okay? Like, you should have that right. If someone's aggro, so aggressive that it's like a threat, like, there should be a law that says if you threaten someone's like safety, like, you should be able to just at least push back, you know. Anyway, that's one story, and that's been reiterated. You know, I've seen it at least 10 times on BART. It's pretty messed up. It's pretty bad. A lot of people's bikes. My bike got stolen recently, so I don't have a working bike at all right now, which really sucks. Because I like taking it just to get to BART and stuff from where I currently live and such. So, anyways, guys, yeah, SF is not what it used to be. It really is basically a shithole. There's so much bike theft and car break-ins that it's like, if you don't live here and you don't know that you can have literally nothing visible in your car, nothing of value can be visible in your car. Otherwise, it will get broken into. Even if it's just like a purse or a satchel with no laptop, they think it's got a laptop. They'll break in. Even if it's a nice car that's completely clean, they'll break in just to look in your trunk. It's happened. It's happened many times. Anyways, guys. That basically summarizes it. I've shown some video throughout this video of San Francisco and how beautiful it really is, and it's just an utter shame that this city that's so beautiful and has so much going for it is becoming an utter shithole, and the people that are moving here are young people like me that are coming for work. They're coming here to program because they're smart individuals that can do that, but they just they don't care about this stuff. They're here just for work. A lot of these people are from other parts of the country. They're not locals, so they don't care. They don't give a shit. They're just transients, basically making a living, and they'll stay as long as they have to. And as soon as they can have a high-paying job and work remotely, they will move back to where they're from if it's cheaper, and they'll buy a nice-ass house and shit. Like, these people will come from the Midwest sometimes, and they'll work out here for like 4 to 6 years, and then eventually, if they get a job where they can work remotely most of the time, they'll move back there and they'll buy something that would have cost $1.5 million for like literally half. So, like, you know, 600,000 to 800,000 will buy them something that's worth well over $1 million out here. So, I mean, the prices are literally double out here, if not triple what you can get in the Midwest. So, I mean, the CEO of my last company, he lived out here for a long time, and CEO moved to Texas. And he moved after he did that, like 4 other executives moved to Texas too, and they opened up a new office out there. All of them got new big houses, and it's like obvious. It's like, there's a migration away from this city and from this area, and I want to shadow on that too, actually. Sorry, this is getting lengthy, but I've noticed there's no new building in SF. There's only refurbishment and such, and obviously that's because there's no room. But I will say that the East Bay and the surrounding Bay Area, they have tons of construction because all these people are moving out of the city because they don't want to be here, or there's people from around the world moving to the Bay Area and they want to be able to live here, but there's nowhere to buy in the city. There's just nowhere to buy. So it's just like growing. It's growing into one of these mega cities, which FEMA wants. So anyways, I don't want to be here much longer, guys. But I will keep you posted. And if you guys have any questions about SF, I'd be glad to make another video. I'm just doing this kind of out of the kindness of my heart. Yeah, if you guys are curious about anything, I will tell you. I've been here a long time. Anyways, guys, this is just like a story time video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a like and subscribe if you did. Take care. Have a good night.